जय जय श्री राधे। श्री वल्लभाधीश की जय, श्री गोवर्धननाथ जी की जय। सभी वैष्णवों को सादर सप्रेम जय श्री कृष्ण। Today is the 24th day of the reading of the 84 Vaishnava Varta, the 84 stories of Sri Acharyaji's disciples, the 84 disciples of Sri Vallabhacharya. Varta number 10, the story of Harivans Pathak, a Saraswat Brahmin from Varanasi. The inner meaning, Bhav Prakash. In the internal Leela, he is Gati Uttalika, a Sakhi of Sri Vishakhaji. She could make any and all preparations in a flash. All her actions were very speedy, and so Vishakhaji was pleased with her. Harivamsji Pathak had previously been a devotee of Ganesh. At the time in Varanasi of Sri Acharyaji posting his treatise, the Patravalamban, and thus defeating all the pundits, Harivams thought to himself that he should definitely go to have Sri Acharyaji's sight. He came there, and when he saw that Sri Acharyaji appeared as a Brahmin, he thought to himself, "He is a Brahmin, but so am I. He is undoubtedly a learned man, but what do I have to learn from him? It is time for me to go back to my Ganesh worship." He had seen Sri Acharyaji from afar and then turned to leave so that he could get what he needed for Ganesh and take it home. He got to the door and knocked his head. Somehow he fainted and fell down. In his stupor, Harivams had a dream where Ganesh told him that if he went home without properly having the sight of Sri Acharyaji, he would turn his back on him and not accept his worship, because he will have offended Sri Acharyaji. Sri Acharyaji, Ganesh, told him, is the full manifestation of the Lord, and that he should be this forgiveness before coming home. Sri Acharyaji, Ganesh told him, is the full manifestation of the Lord, and that he should be this forgiveness before coming home. Harivams came back to consciousness and ran to see Sri Acharyaji. Harivams bowed low before him and said, "Maharaj, you are the Lord himself. I didn't realize this. Please forgive my offensive behavior and let me become your disciple." Sri Acharyaji replied, "I am Brahmin and so are you. So why are you talking about becoming my disciple?" Harivams pleaded, "I am an ignorant soul drowning in the ocean of worldliness. I therefore did not recognize your true form. I worship Ganesh, but even he fears offending you. That is why he sent me to you to beg forgiveness. I have now learnt that you are far greater than me. Please accept me into your fold." At that time, Sri Acharyaji was staying at Seth Purushottam Das's home, and it was there that he gave Harivams the first initiation. Then Harivamsji requested Sri Acharyaji to also accept his wife, son and daughter. Sri Acharyaji advised him to find a deity of the Lord, and that he would then initiate the whole family, and they could start serving the Lord, but must not worship any other demigod at the same time. Harivams promised this, saying that only a completely unlucky fool would wander around knocking on the doors of other demigods, having already found the Supreme Lord. He then went to the market and bought a small deity of Krishna as a child. He requested Sri Acharyaji to very quickly come and bless them all, because it is impossible to depend on the feeble body, which could pop at any time, and so it was now urgent that they fulfill their life's purpose. Seeing his enthusiasm, Sri Acharyaji happily went to Harivamsji's home and showed them the ways of personal and environmental purity before initiating all of them with the Lord's name and Brahma Sambandha. He bathed the deity in the 5 nectars and established Sri Thakurji's Seva in their home. He then also prepared food offerings, offered them, and then partook of the prasad. They all partook of his leftover prasad. Soon after that, he went back to Seth Purushottam Das's house. Sri Acharyaji then left for another holy grace pilgrimage, but advised Harivamsji that if he had any questions about the seva, etc., then he should consult with Sethji. Harivams started to make very nice seva, and very soon Sri Thakurji let him experience his presence. Part 1. Harivamsji once travelled to Patna on business. He sometimes met the Muslim ruler who, pleased with him, decided to give him whatever he asked for. The ruler one day asked him to name whatever he wanted, and Harivams replied, "If I ever need anything, I will ask you." Soon after this, the Spring Swing Festival occurred, Dole, and Sri Acharyaji asked Harivams, "Are you not going to swing me?" Harivams realized he would not have time to get back home for the occasion, so he went to the Muslim ruler and said that he had come to ask something from him, and the ruler agreed to grant his any request. Harivams told him that he must reach Varanasi within 3 days. The ruler said that he would send horses and a rider, and they would change the horses at stops along the way. In this way, Harivans managed to reach home in just 2 days. During the night, he made all the preparations for the swing festival, and there was bliss all around when he swung his Sri Thakurji the next day. Harivans stayed at home for another couple of weeks and then returned to Patna. The ruler asked him, "What was so important that you had to rush home like that? If you had asked for money, I would have given you millions quite happily." Harivans just said, "I'm a householder. There are so many duties at home, so I just had to go." In this way, he kept his worship private. Such a great devotee was he. After that, he made sure that he was always at home on festival days. Here the principle revealed is that in loving devotion one should celebrate festivals etc. with one's own Sri Thakurji at home, then he will be pleased. Also, that one should not expose one's seva to anyone. When the ruler asked him why he had to go so quickly, he gave a worldly reason and told him nothing about Sri Thakurji's experience. Harivans was the recipient of Sri Acharyaji's great grace. Thus concludes Varta 10, the story of Harivans Pathak, although there is truly no end to his story. Now we proceed to Varta 11, the story of Govinda Das Balla, a Kshatriya from Taneshwar. Bhav Prakash, the inner meaning. Govinda Das was a policeman in Taneshwar, and so he carried a rifle. He stayed with the Muslim ruler and received 5 to 7 rupees per day. Once Sri Acharyaji arrived in Taneshwar and made many disciples there. Govinda Das went to Sri Acharya and asked him what he should do with his wealth. Sri Acharyaji told him he should serve the Lord with it. Govinda Das then told Mahaprabhuji that his wife would not agree to this. She was not a Devi Jeev, a divine soul. Sri Acharyaji told Govinda Das to renounce his wife. He did so, and then came with all his money to Mahaprabhu, who told him to divide it up into 4 parts. One for a donation to Srinathji, another for his wife, because the sin of leaving her could thus be appeased. The other 2 portions, he said, should be used to make seva to the Lord. Govinda Das asked Sri Acharyaji to also accept some of it, and he accepted one of the 4 portions. Govinda Das thus gave 1 part to Srinathji and 1 part to Sri Acharyaji. He gave 1 part to his wife, and the last part he kept with him. He proceeded to live in Mahavan, so that his wife would not follow him, and he started serving Sri Mathuranathji. Govinda Das made 24 rupees worth of food offerings every day. He distributed all the prasad amongst the Vaishnavas there who followed the lawful path, and if any was left over, he fed it to the cows. He did not eat any of that prasad. In fact, he cooked very simply for himself and lived on that. Bhaprakash. The reason for this is that in Mahavan, the worship within Sri Nandaraji's temple was in the hands of a Brahmin priest who worshipped according to the path of lawful limitations. The temple paid his expenses. Govinda Das was a Kshatriya by birth, and the priest was a Brahmin, so how could he accept the prasad from the temple? Therefore, he cooked simply for himself and offered everything to Sri Thakurji with his heart. Part 1 continued. In this way, his wealth soon all dwindled. He went to Srinatadwara, Jetipura, on Sri Giriraji. Jetipura was first called Srinatadwara, and there began to serve Sri Krishna, the upholder of the Sri Giriraj mountain, Sri Govardhanaji, by cleaning the dishes every day and night. He would rise an hour and a half before sunrise every day, and after bathing walk all the way to Mathura to fetch a large pot of Sri Yamunaji water, and manage to return before the lunchtime services. Then he would clean all the dishes from the temple, clean the kitchen, descend to the foot of the Sri Giriraji mountain, and go begging in the settlements nearby. When he had collected 5 to 7 kilos of grains, he would grind them into flour by himself, cook them into rotis, offer them to the flag on top of Srinathji's temple, mix them into the prasad, or the nectar of the Lord's feet, that is, water in which the Lord's feet had been washed, charanamrit, and then eat. Then he would wash all of those vessels. In the evening he would also clean the cooking pots, etc., and the kitchen. However, all of this was not enough to please Sri Govardhanaji. Bhav Prakash. If a soul was to perform such seva with love, then for sure Sri Govardhanaji would willingly run behind them. However, Govinda Das had a stubborn and egotistical nature. He left his wife in a proud manner. He offered those 24 rupees worth of supplies in Mahavan also with pride, and all of the seva he did for Srinathji was done in the same way. He suffered physically whilst doing it, but he still thought all the other Vaishnavas to be below him and himself to be so superior. Sri Govardhanaji did not like this at all. Shri Govardhanaji went to Sri Acharyaji in Adel and told him, "Your disciple is really bothering me." Bhav Prakash. The Lord told Sri Acharyaji, "He does a lot of seva, but he does it all with ego. He displeases me." The Lord specifically called Govinda Das your disciple, because if he had not been a disciple of Sri Acharyaji, then he would have punished him himself. But it was up to Sri Acharyaji to teach him the correct ways. Then Sri Acharyaji left Adel and came to Agra, where he asked all of the Vaishnavas, Who is it who is bothering Sri Thakurji? Bhav Prakash. Sri Acharyaji knew very well that it was Govinda Das who was the culprit, but he asked everyone anyway as a warning to all to never to serve with self-pride. Part 1 continued. All the Vaishnavas in Agra denied any knowledge of the situation. They said, "Oh Maharaj, we're not even qualified to serve, so what do we have to be proud of?" From there Sri Acharyaji came to Mathura. The Vaishnavas there all said the same thing. Sri Acharyaji happily went to Srinatadwara. After bathing, he went into the temple. He put his hands on Sri Govardhandarji's 2 cheeks and asked him why he was so unhappy. The beloved Lord replied, "Your disciple is bothering me." Sri Acharyaji called together all his disciples and told them all never to have pride when making their service. When it was Govind Das's turn to turn, the Vaishnavas said it was him. Sri Acharyaji told him that he should from now on accept the Mahaprasad from Srinathji's service like everyone else did. Bhav Prakash. By this he was teaching Govinda Das to join with the other Vaishnavas and not to be so egotistical. Sri Thakurji likes things to run smoothly and doesn't like it when a Vaishnava suffers a lot of troubles in seva due to ego. Govinda Das objected, "How can I take the Lord's leftovers? It is prohibited." Bhav Prakash. Even if everyone else is accepting the Lord's prasad, how can I? Then Sri Acharyaji invited him to partake of the leftover prasad from his personal kitchen. Bhav Prakash. Here Sri Acharyaji was suggesting that he should then leave Srinathji's service because he would not accept the prasad and join his own service, thus coming together with all the other disciples and surviving in that way by staying there and taking Mahaprasad from there. Govinda Das remained stubborn. "How can I possibly eat either from the Lord or from my Guru?" At that point Sri Acharyaji told him to completely leave the service. Bhav Prakash. Govinda Das had been egotistical in his service, and that is why it came to a natural end. Govinda Das gave up the seva here, but he did not heed his Guruji's advice. In this story, Sri Gokulnathji wrote that Kshatriya was proud and so gave up his service. Sri Gokulnathji did not like pride. Stubborn souls fall down, he said. Ego is a huge obstacle to developing the service mood. That's why he called him a proud Kshatriya. There were many other disciples from the Kshatriya class, however, and they were never classed as prideful because they gave that up when they became Vaishnavas. Govinda Das was not classed as a Vaishnava because of his attitude. He could not curb his pride, even in front of the Guru. Pride in one's superior caste or birth is an obstacle in seva. Like this, the Lord might just remove his service. It is written in the Shiksha Patra. Asadhanaha sadhano va na sadhuhu samureva va sharanadeva nikilam palam prapnotyasharanam. There are many ways on this path of grace who have no particular means. There are many on this path of grace There are many on this path of grace who have no particular means by which to please the Lord, and there are many who make a lot of effort, as in seva, remembrance, chanting, readings, etc. Amongst them some are of good character, sattvic, and some not so good, rajasi and tamasi. But they all share the heartfelt sentiment of surrender to the beloved Lord. All of these devotees may attain the Lord. So we are going to conclude the reading today, carry on tomorrow. Shri Vallabhadisha ki jai. Jai Shri Krishna. Jai Jai Shri Radhe. Jai Shri Radhe ji.